Meat Lover spaghetti sauce is a great way for me to have everything I need for a meal, I guess minus the noodles, all in a jar. I don't have to worry about defrosting my meat. I don't have to worry about browning it. It's all done. It's in my jar. I've already quartered all of my tomatoes, diced my peppers, and diced my onions. So I'll take my 4 pounds of tomatoes and put them on the stove and allow them to soften. And then I brown up 5 pounds of hamburger. I don't have to drain it because it's some of my brother's beef and they're Longhorn and they just don't have very much fat. But if I was doing different meat, then I would do it now. I then add 2 diced onions, 1 diced pepper, and 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. I'll mix that in and cook for an additional 5 minutes. I moved my meat mixture to a bigger pot and then I'm adding 24 ounces of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, 2 tablespoons of parsley, 1.5 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon oregano, 1 tablespoon basil, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, and 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. I then place it back on the stove, stir it up well, and once it comes to a simmer again, then I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. Now that my tomatoes are soft, I just put them through my food mill. This isn't a large amount to do, so it'll go really fast. All of the skin and seeds go out of this area here, and the juice and pulp come out right here. I've got my honey strainer, which will catch the pulp for me, and then the bucket below it that catches the juice. And then I take the discard and I run it through one more time because there's actually a lot of pulp in that. And then I'll scrape off all of the extra sauce because it tends to gather right here, and I want to make sure that I've got that in my recipe too. I then add all of the pulp, both from the coarse strainer and from the fine one. It's really thick now because of the tomato paste. So I'll add some juice to it, and I'll continue to add tomato juice until it's the right thickness that I want. I want it to be just a little bit thinner than what I actually want because it's going to cook a little bit as well. And then I'll put it back on the stove and bring it to a simmer. And then I fill up the jars until there's just 1 inch of headspace. So headspace is the space from the top of your food to the top of your jar. I got a little too much in this jar, but that's an easy fix. You just move it to the next one. Next, I just run my chopstick through the sauce just to make sure that there's no bubbles in there. Usually something that's more liquid like this won't have trapped air bubbles, but just occasionally. And then if I find I need to add more to get the proper headspace, this is when I do it. Clean off my rims with a clean, damp cloth and place on my lids fingertip tight. To prepare my canner, I'll add 3 jars of hot water. Then I add my spaghetti sauce, lock on the lid, and turn the burner to high. I'll process these in the pressure canner for 75 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure if I'm at sea level, but I'm at 1,200 feet, so it'll be 11. Now that there's steam coming out of the vent, I'll set the timer for 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes, I just place a weight right over the vent, and it allows the pressure to start rising. Now that the pressure is up past 11, I'll set my timer for 75 minutes and drop the temperature. I need to keep it above 11, but pretty much below 15. 15 is a little bit high for this. If it drops below 11 at any point in the 75 minutes, then I need to restart my timer for 75 minutes. I already turned the stove off and I'm just waiting for the pressure to come back down to 0 naturally. With the pressure down and the indicator down, I can remove the weight and then remove the lid, making sure that I open it away from me so that that steam doesn't go right in my face. And now I have to let it sit for 10 minutes to cool down. Then I'll use my jar lifters to move them. I want to space them about 1 inch apart so that they can cool down, and then let them sit for 24 hours so that they have a chance to get a proper seal. Tomorrow I'll take the rings off and I'll wash the jars with hot soapy water, paying special attention to the threads around the top. Home canned goods are best stored in cool, dark, and dry conditions for 1 to 3 years. So now I get to taste test it. The onions stand out, the peppers, of course, the tomato. Then it has that meaty flavor to it. That's what my husband loves so much. Sometimes I'll take this recipe And I'll make what I call creamy spaghetti. I add a little bit of cream, maybe some cottage cheese, some cheddar cheese, mix it all in, and then it's this ooey gooey, tomatoey, meaty spaghetti. It's super good. Anyways, this is a great way to not only preserve your tomatoes, but also your beef.